Welcome to Conversations from the Edge of Consciousness. I'm your host, Christine Madera. For me, and possibly for you, the inner world of consciousness has always been much more real and way more fun than the so-called real material world. Growing up, I thought I was alone in this, but I'm not. There are a lot of us, and far too many have no one to talk to who shares this experience. I've been lucky to cultivate a community of friends who love to talk about the energies, ideas, and vibrations that are pushing the edges of our own consciousness, as well as our collective consciousness. In Conversations from the Edge, we share our conversations with you. Welcome to Conversations from the Edge. This is your host, Christine Madera, and I'm here today with Veronica Torres and Eloheim. So, Veronica, welcome. It is wonderful to have you back.
Oh, I'm so happy to be back.
Oh, so do you want to give just a little introduction about who you are and introducing Elohim before we jump into our deeper conversation?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. So I'm Veronica. I live in Sonoma, California, which is about 45 minutes north of San Francisco up in wine country. And I've been channeling Elohim for 18 years.
So who is Elohim? And give us a little bit of information about that.
Sure. Elohim, along with the council, I actually channel on a regular basis 7 different groups or entities. We call them the council, and they each have their own individual viewpoints. But the main one I channel is Elohim, and their focus is on the movement from Homo sapiens to Homo spiritus, that breaking out of the way we have always navigated the world, navigated Earth life, which was basically driven by the survival instinct and fueled by fear and captured in limitation and based in habit, and finding all kinds of different, really super practical, down-to-earth ways of saying, you know, you don't have to live in this way. There's more to be experienced here on this planet than the way that you have always done it. And so it's been quite a powerful, powerful journey.
Yes, and one that we are kind of ramping up right now. Okay, so if people want to dive deeper into the Homo sapien and Homo spiritus, there's another podcast that we've had about that, so you can look through the podcast and find it. I'll post it on the webpage as well to make it a little bit easier, but we're going to move forward with a little bit different conversation today, whenever you're ready.
I will round up Elohim.
Okay, great.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Good. Hi, it's good to be talking with you again.
We are happy to speak with you as well.
Wonderful. Is there anything you'd like to say before I ask my first question?
Ooh, that's a pretty broad question. Because we could speak about anything, and we'd rather speak about the thing that you would like us to focus on, right? Because if you say, what do you want to talk about? It might not be the thing that is actually what you need and what your listeners need right now. So let's just focus on where you want us to go, and we will feel the freedom to expand on that as we feel drawn to.
So we are in this journey from operating from personality and the ego structures of personality toward operating in a higher state of awareness. And we had talked earlier about this as the transition from Homo sapien to Homo spiritus. But can you talk just a little bit about what that journey is and what personality is and what awareness is? And that'll give us context for the next question.
Sure, no problem. So as we define the terms, we speak about personality and we speak about awareness. And the difference between those two terms is that personality is the interaction with human experience, human life, that is based in limitation. That's the shortest, easiest way to say it. Personality is based in limitation. So personality looks into the world and says, I need to make it smaller so it feels safer, it feels more controllable, it feels less uncertain, it feels more like I know what's going to happen, I can be an outcome focus and it's probably going to work out, all of that sort of stuff. So all of those habits that humans have to say to the world, I need to control you, make you smaller, etc., basically we sum up as saying limitation, right? And so you look into the world and you say, I want to limit what's going on here in some fashion, to make myself more comfortable, to make myself feel like it's more likely that things are going to go my way, whatever, whatever. The reality of awareness that is always present, you don't have to go find awareness, you just have to get the urge of personality out of the way. The reality of awareness is that you are part of all. You don't end at your skin. It's all me is one of the ways we've said this. The idea that the entirety of the experience is unfolding, that you are part of that unfolding and you are witness to that unfolding simultaneously. So a way to visualize this would be personality is a drop of water and awareness is the ocean. Personality is part of the ocean, but it is not the ocean.
Wow, that's terrific. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And personality is one of those things that I talk about it sometimes as the conditioned self, who we've been conditioned to be versus, the living in all possibility of awareness. So is that an accurate thing to say as well?
That's a way to say it because personality really comes from cultural biases that are passed down to you. Personality comes from the way that you have been raised and the way that you have seen others navigate the world. And so that conditioned is a good word for that, is a good word for that. Conditioned limitations, conditioned habits. It's all about that sense of saying, I am going to retract into myself rather than I'm going to know and experience the unlimited self, the unlimited experience of being.
Yeah, because that personality level, I know from my own experience, when I'm in personality, I look to the world and I adjust myself based on what I see in the world. And when I am in awareness, like I create my world and I sort of live the experience that's being had in the moment without the limitation of making the world bigger than me. It's an interesting shift, when you're going back and forth between the two.
Exactly, especially when one of the things that's extraordinarily important for you, all your listeners, to know is that personality cannot tell you what it's like to live as awareness. Personality cannot describe it. Personality cannot predict it. Personality can do nothing. It has no way. The drop cannot know what the ocean is. So a lot of times people get caught up in the fact that personality will say, oh, if you stop doing it the way you've done it, your whole life will fall apart, or you'll never pay your bills, or your family won't love you anymore. Because personality projects limitation on awareness because that's the only thing personality has to work with. It only has limitation to work with. Therefore, it imagines that awareness is also a limitation, and it tries to decide what that limitation is before you even get to awareness. We call that sneaky personality. Sneaky personality sneaks in and says, oh, I know what I'll do here. I'll say, oh, sure, yeah, think big thoughts, but it's really going to screw up everything. And it's this sense of doubt in you because it imagines it knows what it is like to be in awareness, but that is one of the absolute non-truths. Personality cannot know, project, predict, describe anything about awareness.
Okay. Well, that sets perfectly up my next question, because there's a lot of ideas that we have out there. They're memes or ideas. They're gathering credibility in our culture now. Things like, trusting yourself, tapping into your own wisdom and trusting yourself more than trusting the world, being authentic. And what does that really mean? Loving yourself and the truth of what that is, the idea that we create our own reality, and even things like, instant gratification are all things that from awareness are actual truths, it seems like, as part of that living in awareness. But right now we're approaching these things from personality, and so they become a little more destructive and problematic from personality. But can you talk about how we can better experience and express these and other higher principles from awareness, and how to recognize when we are operating from them from personality, and anything else you want to talk about with that.
Yeah, well, a starting point in that question would be, how do you know when you're in personality, and how do you know when you're in awareness?
Mm-hmm.
And this will answer your entire question as well, so that's a nice twofer. What happens is that folks get exposed to the idea of the difference between personality and awareness. We just did it earlier in this call.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, well, yeah, that awareness thing, that sounds groovy, let's do that. And then sneaky personality, as we mentioned earlier, comes in and says, well, here's all the reasons why that's not going to work, or here's all the reasons why it's not worth it, or here's all the reasons why that's just a bad idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're back in personality, and they don't realize it. Because they said, I want to live in awareness, my intention is to live in awareness, but their experience of what they want is then colored by personality and sneaky personality. And so they're dragged back into the personality experience of the now, even as they're desiring a changed experience. So really, it comes down to catching yourself in personality, not beating yourself up, and then surrendering the temptation to have personality be the interface. And that surrendering process has to happen over and 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 over again until it becomes more default, which means being on the lookout for it, catching it, noticing it. Now, for a lot of people, the personality experience looks like overthinking. That's one of the major red flags, is think. I have to solve it. And so people will say, okay, I'm just not going to think so much. I'm going to be present. I'm going to be deeply present in this now. And then they start thinking, and they don't catch the fact that thinking has started up again.
Mm-hmm.
So we like to say catching it's 90% of the healing in general, whether it's a habit or anything else. But catching it when it comes to surrendering personality is even more important, because it's happened unconsciously for so long that personality has been in charge, just like you don't notice your heartbeat or your food digesting, right? You don't notice yourself touching your eye. You don't notice yourself touching your face until you start paying attention to touching your face, right? That's a very on topic, on a timely way of saying this. So it's so vital that people begin to find what we call doorways to awareness. They begin to find the place in them that notices where personality is still in charge and they haven't surrendered personality. So you get these woo-woo notions, you made a nice list of them earlier, right, that sound great, and people say, yeah, I want to live that way, but if they don't have the step-by-step, and they don't have the tools to help them catch personality, and they don't have the consistency and the willingness to pay attention to it, it ends up feeling more like a pipe dream, which just solidifies the personality perspective, because it's like, oh, yeah, you had a dream of living in awareness, but now you're back here in limitation.
Yes. And I think I know for me, when I was walking down this path as well, it was so hard to know. Well, it wasn't hard to be in awareness, but it's kind of like once you realize you're in awareness, you're out of awareness. And because then you're referencing, for me, I was like sort of, oh, I was in awareness. And then now suddenly I'm back in thought. And so the whole piece of awareness was there and then was gone. And I was back in thought because I wanted to think about the awareness, because that's where the perception of the experience was, versus the experience of actually being in awareness, which is a different kind of experience than thinking about awareness or thinking about the fact that I was being in awareness. But it's hard sometimes as beings who are conditioned to think, to actually have experiences or process experiences or have or enjoy experiences without that monologue of what the experience is. Like, we don't know how to have an experience without talking about the experience as we're having it, which takes us out of the experience. It's like this catch-22. And because the being in awareness feels so foreign, and it feels like nothing is happening. We're all a little bit addicted to overstimulation. And but I know for me, when I'm really deeply in experience, there's so much happening, it's very engrossing, but it's not the kind of happening personality finds satisfying. So that's the game that I play with myself with that.
Yeah, and we call that process that you've described very clearly, we call that process using personality to navigate awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So you have personality, you surrender it for a moment, which can
Mm-hmm.
look like deeply present, it can look like letting go of obsessive thinking, and then you have a new experience, a vastly changed experience. We always say awareness is vastly changed from personality.
Mm-hmm.
It's not slightly different, it's vastly changed. So you're in personality, you surrender personality through one of your doorways to awareness. Now you have an awareness-based experience, and it's like, whoa, and then you think about it, or you want to talk about it, or you want to share even about it, or you want to describe it. And when you do that, most people, everybody, defaults to using personality to describe it because that's the only way you've ever had to describe experience. And so like you said, it's a catch-22, and we've actually worked a lot with this with our community because it is quite a good hook for sneaky personality, quite a good hook.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll tell you, it was a bit of a challenge to try to describe awareness and describe the idea of living from awareness without activating people's personalities along the journey. So we have had the same problem you have.
Can you talk just a little bit about what it is to live in awareness and to navigate in awareness as you're moving through your life versus having a moment of awareness?
Yes. So one of the main ways that living in awareness has been showing up for folks, Veronica included, is the being impulsed by choiceless choice, rather than impulsed by gotta do to get outcome. So let us explain what we mean by that. First, let us define choiceless choice. So choiceless choice is a state where you don't desire another option. You know, you don't look for what are the 5 things I want to choose from, because the one that's in your lap is so clearly your next step, is so clearly your next focus, that you don't need another choice. You don't want another choice. That's what we call it, choiceless choice. It's the choiceless choice, right? So that feeling of choiceless choice isn't something that personality knows anything about, nor are most people who are walking around the planet familiar with. However, when you're deeply present, when you surrender personality's dictates, when you abide in awareness, and when you allow yourself to continue to abide in awareness, even as you said earlier, it feels like nothing's going on, or you're not getting anything done, or maybe everything is just going to fall apart because you're not doing it the way you used to. When you surrender and surrender and surrender, what results is an experience of presence, and then bubbling up, that's the term Veronica likes, bubbles up out of that presence, an unavoidable and amazing clarity that we call choiceless choice. And acting upon choiceless choice is not the same as acting upon do to get, or acting upon I need this outcome to happen. It feels completely different. The way it's been described by many people is that everything falls into place. Everything flows from one thing to another. People report getting 10 times as much done in 100 times more easeful ways because they're moving in this choiceless choice way. Now, what often can happen, again, sneaky personality, we've always got to be keeping an eye out for it. You surrender personality, you drop into awareness, you abide in awareness, choiceless choice arises, you start to act upon choiceless choice, and then personality pops up and says something along the lines of, how did you get here? How did that work? Can you duplicate it? Will it happen again? Oh God, what if you trust this? What will happen? You don't know anything. You didn't look into it. You didn't do enough research. Personality tries to take over.
Right, yes.
But personality had nothing to do with choiceless choice arising. It had absolutely nothing to do with choiceless choice arising because you had surrendered it. So watching where personality attempts to get choiceless choice, take credit, or tell you how it all works when it can't possibly know is super important. So that's one of the major ways that living in awareness shows up, is this navigation of choiceless choice. There are more, but that's one of the major ones. so far.
Yeah, and that's one that I think, I mean, I know I've experienced that quite a bit, and that people have had an experience of that. Of course, then the temptation is you get the choiceless choice, and then you go into personality to execute the choiceless choice, which happens to me as well. So, what about like once you're in that choiceless choice, there's the impulse then for personality to come and sort of and take control. And so to continue to navigate choiceless choice or not navigate awareness, do we just continue to in each moment surrender when personality tries to take control, or are there other strategies or other things that we can do to begin to cultivate more time in awareness as we move through life?
It all comes down to surrendering personality, and there's lots of different ways people have come up with to do that, right? But
Mm-hmm.
to make a one-sentence statement is you continually surrender personality, allowing you to abide in awareness, and then you surrender any personality that comes up that tries to detract or distract or take you out of awareness.
Okay.
Surrendering personality is kind of a nonstop job until you don't have to do it anymore.
So this is kind of a weird question, but I've been working with the I and the me recently. So who is it that actually surrenders personality in that moment? Is it personality surrendering personality, or what's actually like the functionality of surrendering personality in the moment?
Yeah, so you got to be really careful about this question. And we know why you're asking it, and we could go into kind of like big, long breakdown about it, but It's personality wanting to know. It's personality wanting to understand something to try to get more hooks in you about it. The reality is it does not matter how it works, because you're not trying to be really good at personality. You're trying to surrender it. So we say, drop it like you would drop a hot potato. Drop it like you would drop a bad partner. Drop it like you would drop, a piece of rotten fruit. Just drop it. Don't try to understand it, explain it, detail it out. We say don't dance with personality. It's asking for you to engage it in order to justify or explain or describe. And that's really great thinking. And so what we talk about is you don't want to just get really good at personality.
Yeah.
So be really careful about those kinds of questions, which people have asked us. We totally understand why you're asking it. But that is a personality-based, let's understand it better rather than just dump it.
Right, and the dropping it was what actually was the helpful piece of that for me. It just in the moment for that question for me, but because that's kind of it's there's the deeper part of what's personality, but it was the dropping it that makes a lot of sense about what to do in that moment. So I guess drop it and drop into awareness as best you can, and just keep dropping as much as you can.
You don't want to spend the next 30 years just getting better at understanding the dynamics of how personality operates.
Yeah, no,
you don't
totally.
want to spend years being really good at catching personality. That's another thing people get trapped in. They catch personality and they say, ooh, I caught personality, and then they go looking for more personality to catch, as if that's the point. That's not the point. But
no, it's not the point.
Another trap. That's another trap, is like, I caught my personality wanting to do this. My personality wanted to do this. It's a little bit like people would say, my inner child this and my inner child that. And you're like, okay, great. But at some point, are you going to talk to me like from your grown-up self? Are we going to get past that fact that you've caught your inner child's needs a whole bunch of times? Like, good. But let's heal now, right? It's a little bit like that. Same kind of energetic is that catching personality. The best way to say it is you don't want to you're not trying to get really good at personality. You're trying to catch personality so you can discard it. Catch personality so you can discard it, not so you can dance or understand it. You've spent a lot of time already experiencing personality. You don't need to explore it anymore. You know enough about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's kind of like you're in a relationship with someone and they're abusive to you. You don't have to stick around to see how many different ways they can abuse you and how fast your bruises heal. Right? That's not the point. The point isn't to see how fast your bruise heals this time. The point is to get away from the person who's hitting you.
Yes. Okay. Well, that makes perfect sense, and it's I know it's a long-term process to figure it out in process, but you've laid it out really well. So there's one thing that, there's an idea that has been gaining traction for years now, really, but it's really beginning to gain even more traction, and it's the idea that we are one. And right now, there's the hashtag We Are One. There's the idea. I've seen it to sell cars. I've seen it on a bunch of commercials about, we're dealing with coronavirus and all of these different things and how we are one. There's protests now talking about that fundamentally we are one. So there's a lot of we are one idea. It's all coming from personality. And so I think from personality, we all have a sense of what we're aspiring to with we are one. But if we were experiencing we are one from awareness, what might that experience be like? Or how could we experience we are one from awareness in a different way than we're experiencing it from personality?
Yeah, so personality says we are one, and does that mean I have to give you my money? Or we are one, so does that mean you can come and eat at my house anytime you want? Like personality comes in and says, how does we are one mean I'm not going to thrive or survive? How is that a jeopardy? The personality likes to start things off from that place of like, how is this going to mess me up? And so we are one works really great when people are in that sort of collaborative place, but like around here, 3 years ago, they had bad wildfires. And people were so nice to each other and helping each other, giving each other food and clothes and places to live, and here, use my car, and here, do this, and here, use that. And then at some point, people just were like, okay, I'm done with all that, and I'm going to go back to taking care of me now. And someone even said to Veronica, yeah, we're back to being mean to each other again. All that was over now. Yeah. And so that's personality's way of doing it. Like, we are all one until it's inconvenient or until I'm done with it. And that's not difficult to see. That plays out in your world all the time. Yes. And so personality says, well, that's what we are one means, or yeah, that's enough on that. So awareness, when you drop into awareness and you're extraordinarily present, you recognize a truth, and we'll tell you how your scientists have described it first, so people have some context. So your scientists know that, or the way they know it so far, let's say, is that your whole world is built of subatomic particles. And we just shorten that down to electrons. We know there's more subatomic particles, but we just say electrons so everybody knows what we're talking about, right? We're just talking about electrons. Yeah. All electrons. So when you look out into the world, it does not matter what shape those electrons are taking. They're all electrons. That's the building blocks of everything, is the subatomic particles. That's how your scientists will explain it, and that's accurate for now. So if you just went to there, that's still personality, but if you just went there and said, we're all made of the same building blocks, that's a different perspective than everybody's going to come eat at my house. Yes. But when we move all the way into awareness looks out and knows it's all me, with the definition of me being, like we talked about earlier, the ocean. Right? We are all cohesively participating. But the problem with the word all, or even me, is that personality grabs a hold of it and makes it what we call the gingerbread shape, your body. Yeah. And says, I am not that tree. I can promise you, I am not that tree, personality will say. I am not that tree. It's not my body. It doesn't move when I want it to move. Therefore, it's not me. And so awareness gives us a new definition of me. It gives us a new definition of all. It gives us a new definition of it. It's all me isn't I am everybody's gingerbread and they all use my bank account to pay their bills? What? No, that's not true. Instead, it's I, as a non-ending entity, like I don't end at my skin. I am a non-ending entity. I am part of the ocean, as we're continuing to use that example. I am part of all. I am part of all. And who I am is all. So all is part of all. And these are just words we understand, because it's very, very difficult to language this. Because in order to language this, personality has to be completely out of the way. And personality is not completely out of the way for anybody, really. And it's certainly not out of the way for groups of people at this time. But the reality here isn't looking to another gingerbread shape and saying, you are me, and then wondering what responsibilities that entails. It's looking into another gingerbread shape and say, we are sharing an evolving experience. And in that sharing, we are not separate. Just like the drops of water are not separate in the ocean. Yet any drop of water can be pulled from that ocean and seen separately. It is still not separate from the ocean when it is in the ocean. So it's a difficult thing for anybody who's got any bit of personality, which is everybody, operating, feel into, because the immediate thing that happens is, okay, but what does that mean going forward? And you cannot use this concept in a what does that mean going forward way. You can use this concept only in the present now way. So what you do is you allow yourself to abide, we love this word, abide in awareness, abide in the reality of that. And if it helps to imagine the subatomic particles so that you can break down that barrier that happens between you and the desk, because the desk is not, doesn't feel like you can use that as a visual to help you. And you abide in it. And you don't imagine what it means or drive yourself to a future experience or any of that nonsense. Instead, you just abide in it. And if a choiceless choice bubbles up out of that, great. If not, you're just practicing letting yourself not be in limitation driven by personality and imagined to mean you end at your skin. Again, this is not something that needs to be understood or explained or justified or broken down or any of that. It's something that you allow yourself to bask in the truth of without demanding anything further of it.
Well, yeah, and in the orientation of that, it's easier then to understand, even from a personality level, that when you harm yourself or anything else, like you're doing harm to all. When you're contracting and saying I need mine, and it doesn't really matter what those people have, it's a form of harming when you think of it in terms of the all, because it's a way to come into separation from the all. And it is easier, I know, for me in that state to really, sink into, there's no words, or I don't have words for it right now because I'm a little spacey, but it's easier to be in the energy of desiring all things to be benefiting and thriving together. Even if I don't know what that looks like, on a so-called quote unquote practical sense in the world, but to be in the energy of that and to let that energy kind of inform what I do or who I am. And the longer I'm in that, the easier it is to translate that into everyday life, into how I'm living, and even on a personality level. But I think I'm rambling a little bit, but I agree that being in that energy and that awareness in the now and basking in that, I like that word, and abiding in that begins to shape what's happening in that now as you move forward.
No, we got to interrupt you because you
okay,
caught
sorry.
yourself. I think I'm rambling because you knew you were in personality.
Okay.
But you didn't take a second in personality. So we were going to let it run out, but then we're going to double down on the personality. So we're interrupting you now because this is a great example for your listeners, right? And for you, Veronica, for everybody, of how you got to be really mindful of how personality will drive you toward outcome. It'll drive you toward limitation, and it drives you toward outcome focus. So you had it right. You abide in awareness, you know all that, but then you said, have this greater vision for all, or whatever words you used, right? That is an outcome. It's a woo-woo, nice-sounding, beautiful, everyone wants it all to work out for everyone outcome, but it's still an outcome focus. It's still taking you out of presence. It's still letting personality shape what you think should happen next.
Okay.
So when you abide,
go ahead.
You are not hoping for it to turn out, or abiding in awareness, wanting what's good for everyone, or any of those things. We understand why people say that. We understand why you said that. We know where it's coming from, but it's just really good personality. It is not actually the shift into awareness, because the shift into awareness does not start with, and I know how it should go.
Right. Okay. So,
can you feel the difference there? Hang on,
yeah, I can feel, yeah.
we don't want to do this yet because we have this thing called the gate latch. And when
Okay.
people really get something, we hear that sound like a gate closing, that click, click sound, and we're not quite gate latch, but we're
Okay.
super close. And it might
All
not
right.
just be for you, right? Because we can feel the energy of your audience. So
Okay.
let's just listen this for just a moment longer as we
Okay.
explain a bit longer, but mostly it's all
Yes.
energetic anyway, and we're just talking to keep the energetics moving.
Yes.
Little secret there. When you are in awareness, let's start again. When you are trying to move from personality to awareness, the temptation is to imagine what awareness is like.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the biggest temptations that has to be surrendered. So one of the things you can say is, I don't have a clue what it feels like to be in awareness. What I can do is desire and be willing to be in awareness by sinking into this now so deeply that I'm not looking for anything else but the presence I have in this now. I'm not projecting how I should be, how it should feel, how it should sound or taste. All I'm saying is my willingness to be present in this now is the loudest thing. And as I drop into that presence and I abide in that presence and I bask in that, I allow for choiceless choice to arise to state my next action, even if that next action is not in me attached to any further action or outcome or desire or how it should turn out or anything. You know, it's a bit like you see these Rube Goldberg machines where they push a little ball and it goes through all these different things of knocking things around. That's actually a really good example. The choiceless choice might be to just push on a ball, and you're like, I don't know why I did that, but I knew I was supposed to. And then it creates all this transformation that personality had no projection or knowledge that would happen. So even the well-understood urge to think good thoughts for everybody or want good outcomes for everybody is actually investing in personality, as you know, hard as that might be for people to hear. We call it being really good personality. And yeah, really good personality is better than super negative, you know, divisive personality, but it's not the vastly changed state that is experiencing awareness.
Okay.
Does that feel clear to you?
Yeah, it feels clear. It's so let me ask you a question that kind of comes back to the personality piece. Is we are in this period right now where there's a lot of protests. There's a lot of desire for a new kind of social contract. And so from a place of awareness, then is the way to participate in this to simply be in awareness? I mean, I guess the answer would be yes, and take the actions that come from choiceless choice without any kind of idea about how this might turn out.
Exactly. Because you cannot know, personality cannot know how it will turn out anyway. Right? Right now, as we're recording this, the people are in the streets. They've been in the streets for, 10 days?
Yeah, something like that.
No one knows what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen a week from now, what's going to happen a month from now, how it's going to turn out. People can see, wow, having all these people engaged, having all these people making conversation, having all these videos pointing out things that need to change, that no longer feel moral and correct in our society, that has the potential to elicit change. But no one knows what law is going to get passed or who's going to get fired or who's going to get promoted or how police stations might get rearranged. Nobody knows. So personality cannot tell you how it will turn out. And we would imagine that a lot of people don't even know exactly what they want it to look like. They just know it can't look like it is looking now.
Yes.
And that's powerful. Because if you say, it must look like this, damn it, that's going to be personality. But if you say, it's so clear to me that I need other people to hear that these are my concerns and these are the things that are bothering me, and the solutions to those things need to come from collaboration and listening and connecting. and recognizing each other's experience in new ways. You can see how none of that is attached to outcome, like it's got to turn out this way. It's connected to let us all be present together. And in our presence together, let us find our path.
Okay, so that is different than personality, because to me, like I think for me it's hard to I understand the dropping in, like the letting go of personality and dropping into awareness, but that other piece, and I understand being attached to outcome and why that's totally personality. It's the middle place between that, like that collaborative zone where maybe you have, like for me, I have this just trying to create spaciousness for the highest outcome of all concerned. But to me, maybe on a personality level, that includes social justice. That includes economic justice. I don't know what it looks like, but it includes, people being able to live in a place of well-being more so than they are now. So it has like a directional energy to it without necessarily an outcome. But to me, that still kind of, from our previous conversation, seems more like personality than awareness, but it seems like there's a little more of a gray area in there.
It's definitely personality. And it's a challenging type of personality. And it's great that you caught that. Like, hang on, this might still be personality. And it is. And people will say, yeah, but we need that. Okay, cool. Like we said earlier, there's progress in really good personality, but it's still not awareness. So that's where we come down to it. Mm-hmm. Are you all, not just you, y'all, are y'all going to say really good personality is good mm-hmm. enough, or is the step that we can manage, or are we going to go all the way into experiencing awareness about this? Now that question is probably, really good personality is probably what's going to happen first.
Right,
and that's needed and wonderful. But people like yourself and your listeners who are interested in being the energetic foundation of awareness abiding on the planet within human form, you can take it further than that. You don't have to stop at really good personality. So in your case, like I'm making what, we don't remember exactly what you said, but basically holding space for the highest outcome. Mm-hmm. Okay, personality. Really good personality, but still personality. So what if instead you said, I don't know a damn thing. One, I don't even know what highest outcome means. I'm just imagining that some universal energy knows what I mean by highest outcome or understands highest outcome, or it's kind of like when people say, I'll let the universe take care of it. Come on now. Let's we're more grounded than that. Okay. So what if we dump the idea of highest outcome? What if we dump the idea of letting the universe take care of it? What if we dump all that and say, what if I instead get so present, surrender thinking, stop imagining I end at my skin and all the other stuff we've talked about that helps people move from personality to awareness, and instead allowed myself to be in awareness as often as I possibly can, and to catch sneaky personality trying to drag me out of it, in order to be the person who's facilitating that energetic on the planet. Mm. You see?
Yeah. Yes.
Because it's a little bit like anchoring the energy, and if people like yourself, who with big hearts and willingness are saying, I'm going to hold open whatever, good thoughts for everybody, cool, and we would encourage you to take that one step further, to surrender the idea that you have any idea how this should turn out, because every way you imagine it turning out is going to be driven by personality, because that's all you've had to work with all this time. Mm-hmm. And instead say, my path is to sink into awareness so frequently and abide there as long as I possibly can, that opens the field of infinite possibilities. Not for me to pick from, but for the infinite possibilities to have space, to be noticed, to be allowed in. It's a bit like when your computer is too full and it doesn't run very well. And you clear out a bunch of stuff, and all of a sudden it's super fast, and you're like, wow, I should have gotten all that stuff cleared out a long time ago, because this is bogged down for a while. Or when your phone is full of pictures, and it's like, I can't take another picture because I'm full of pictures. It's like, well, What happens when you dump all the pictures? Well, now you can take videos and this and that and play games and get apps, and wow, I can change things in my life because I got rid of what was clogging it up. Right. And you don't know when you've got 100 million pictures on your phone and it's totally clogged up. You don't know what you would do with your phone in a year when it isn't clogged up like that. It's not up to you to imagine that. It's just up to you to get rid of the clog so that there's space and opportunity for new.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. It's hard to sometimes, again, it's coming back to personality, to envision how everything could organize from that. But I love the idea and the practice of that, because then it becomes kind of this self-organizing thing that we all get to participate in without having an agenda, and being in the kind of sort of magnificent unfolding of it.
Exactly. And the tricky part, let's just tell you the part up front,
yeah.
Being honest with you, the tricky part is that sneaky personality pops up. Sometimes Veronica calls it ninja personality because it's so sneaky. It's a ninja, right? It pops up and tries to take over. So what happens is, let's say you get super present, you have choiceless choice, you recognize you're supposed to, we don't know, we don't even want to project anything. Well, let's just say push the little ball, right? We talked about earlier. Yeah. You recognize I'm supposed to push the little ball. You push the little ball, and you stand back, and all of a sudden you see it going through all those different things that happen when people make those fun Rube Goldberg things. And personality starts to say, oh, maybe I should have pushed harder, or, oh, wait, it's not going to go. I should jump in there and blah, 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 right?
Right, yeah.
And so personality sneaking in and trying to either take credit or tell you don't know how this all happened, like you just pushed a ball and all of a sudden all this other stuff's happening. You don't know how that happened, so it's never going to happen again. You're a fraud, you're a fake, it's all pretend, you're make-believing the whole thing. Basically, Veronica calls it the bad boyfriend. Like, personality starts doing the bad boyfriend stuff. Like, get a restraining order, get a restraining order. The bad boyfriend stuff pops up, discouraging you, discounting you, talking you out of it, talking you down in it. And so the key here is to engage with the present, use your doorways to awareness. When awareness bubbles up and choiceless choice is there and you act on choiceless choice and things unfold from that, double, triple, quadruple down on being present, double, triple, quadruple down on not trying to take credit for it or explain it or justify it or any of that. Double, triple, quadruple down on, I don't know what's going on, how it's going to turn out, what comes next. I'm not supposed to. That is not my role. My role is to continue to be present, continue to abide in awareness, continue to be in the field of infinite possibilities, continue. What got me here?
Right. Okay, I felt a really big energetic shift with that, so thank you for continuing to talk about it. Because that's how I get things. Like, the words help, but it's the energy that really comes in. And hopefully, if people are listening, they have a sense of that, or they get it from words, or however that works. It did trigger. It's not the word I would want to use, but there's a lot of language that we have and a lot of ideas we have, and part of it's like, Abraham Hicks and some of these things about being the creator of, your own experience. And I'd like you to talk about, if you would, it's not the personality or the ego or the conscious mind that's doing the creating, it's that larger something that's doing the creating, and that's all creating together. But I think sometimes we get lost in the idea that the personality, need to create, and I'm kind of creating on my own, and the universe might be helping me a little bit, but it doesn't seem like that's not the creative force that's actually doing the creation when you're talking from awareness. And awareness, it's like you're part of the process, and then you get the little choiceless choice hits that bring you into your part of the process of this larger creation at that particular point in time. And you don't know all the things that little ball moves through, because those aren't your things. It's part of this larger piece that you're not really, I guess you'd be aware of if you were in awareness, or you just allow but it's that larger creative force rather than the idea of that we learn like I am my creator of my own reality, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and a great example is you just said, oh God, we got to try to hold on to it, is I would know about it if I was in awareness. That's personality trying to tell you what awareness is like. Just
or maybe I would
because,
just trust of it if I was in awareness. But yeah, okay, go ahead.
So we'll speak on the rest of it, but we're just catching these places because people need examples of what sneaky personality looks like, and so you're our example. We normally we have a group of people and we ask, we pick on different people with this, but you're the only one, so we get to say everything.
Yeah.
That you signed up for it by calling us.
I did.
But it's hard to catch sometimes, so it's good to have pointed out to you. Anyway. So we always used to talk about creating your own reality as you create your reality through how you react to your experiences. And the obvious example is we're talking to you. If we hang up with you right now, Veronica's next now is going to be very different than if we stay on the phone with you. So that's obvious. We choose to stay on the phone with you. Therefore, we create the reality of continuing the phone call. If we choose to hang up, then, she'd probably go have lunch. So two different paths based on a choice of how to react to this current now. So we've talked about that for years, and we believe it to be, a very succinct way of talking about that. However, it's the same thing with personality awareness. If you're going to choose to be an outcome or choose to think or choose to do all the things that reinforce personality, you're going to get more personality. If you choose to be present, to surrender, to do the doorways to awareness, you're going to have a more likely be in awareness. So right there's another example of being in creation. The thing you have to watch is that personality is amazing at trying to take credit for some things and completely not even thinking it needs to be involved in everything else. So the planet is still turning, even though no personality is out there spinning it.
Yeah.
Right? The sun is shining on Veronica right now, even though her personality has nothing to do with that. Even to bring it down even closer, her personality is not constantly managing her blood pressure or her digestion. Her personality is not constantly, blinking her eyes. There's a wisdom, you can call it awareness because that's an accurate way to describe it. There's an unfolding that occurs that you are all part of, that personality has absolutely nothing to do with at any time. And the only time personality wants to get involved is when it wants to take credit for it or it wants to try to limit you about it.
Okay.
But the rest of the time, it's just oblivious to it. And so this is where people will give a lot of, they'll be like, oh, I created this horrible thing that happened to me. And it's like, yeah, but you're going to say you created this horrible thing that happened to you. Where's that stop? Because if you're either a creator or you're not. So if you're creating the fact that you got in a car accident, did you create the fact that the car ran well for the last 30 years or that your food digested this morning? Like, at some point you're all in on I'm a creator of everything or you're just finding ways to beat yourself up and let personality create limitation around create limitation using a spiritual concept. I create my reality. Or, like we like to say it, making you a victim of yourself.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right? And so, as you navigate the world, if you're going to make yourself a victim of yourself and say, oh, I created this horrible thing, we have a whole teaching about this, which we probably won't go into now because it's not exactly the subject we're on, but we've talked about this at length. If you're gonna buy into using woo-woo concepts to abuse yourself, you are reinforcing personality. And if you're going to use woo-woo concepts, at least evolve them into an awareness perspective to where they maybe actually can help. Don't just let the personality use them as the pummel, use them as the weapon against you. And a lot of people, light workers, people who really believe they're here to help the planet, are using woo-woo concepts as weapons against themselves. And we cannot stand that.
Yes.
We call it
I agree. Yeah.
in our levels teaching, that's level 3, and we say, you know, we won't even talk about level 3 because it's so distasteful to us. We've talked about it. You can go on the website and read about it. We won't even discuss it because it's the most distasteful thing to use spiritual concepts as weapons against yourself. We can't tolerate it.
Yeah, it's all that part about making yourself wrong, no matter what it is. Okay, so there's something that I know Veronica said that you say, and with Veronica, I talked about this before we got on, that I know it's going to be a conversation about personality in a way, but I think it may be helpful for people to be able to at least stop beating themselves up and begin to allow something. But I know you say you can't change without change. And I know from my experience of working with people with hypnosis that people would come and say, I want my life to change in this particular way, but I don't want to change. And they would couch it in all kinds of different things. But that's what it would basically come down to, is I need everybody else in my life and all of these other things to change, but I don't want to be the person who actually is different because of this change. I don't want to have to change. I don't want to have to give up personality. I don't want to have to give up identity. I just want all of these other things to work better in my life. But we are now in this place where most people want enormous amounts of change, but that implies that we as people, we as humanity, we as a human family need to be able to change in order to allow that change. And this is all going to be about personality probably, but can you speak to that to maybe help us be able to step into change on the path to Homo Spiritus as we move forward, or in some other way that's much better than that?
Yeah, so you're right. People will clamor for, I want my life to be different. And a great example of this is people will say, oh man, something has to change. It just can't stay this way. And we say, okay, here's what you do. You either rearrange the furniture in the living room. And they'll be like, what? And we'll say, okay, if you don't want to do that, we understand. Some people's living rooms can't really be rearranged. We get that.
Yeah.
You go in your kitchen and you take all the glasses out of the cupboard and you put the plates where the glasses were and you put the glasses where the plates were. And they'll be like, what? And we're like, yeah, because every single time you go into the kitchen and you go to get a plate or a glass, you're going to have to experience change. You're going to have to experience different neural pathways. You're going to have to experience the interrupt of habit. And that small change ripples and starts creating something out of the rigidity you've been in.
Yeah.
It breaks out of the rigidity. Just that one small change. Do you know people actually take us up on that advice? We don't think very many. But it's a super duper simple, easy, tiny way to jolt yourself out of your own internal rigidity. So we'd invite your listeners to welcome small, non-threatening, nobody's hitting you with a baton or forcing you into a paddy wagon, right? Nobody's requiring you to march in the sun, but you're saying, I want change in the world, and change starts with me, and change can start with me breaking out of my own personal habits. And I can do that in small, seemingly insignificant ways. If you brush your teeth with your right hand, try doing it with your left hand. Do anything, and small changes add up. And if lots and lots of people were making small changes, it would be the neuroplasticity of your society, which is a funny concept, but we believe you know what we mean.
Yes.
The neuroplasticity of your society is more ready to embrace larger systemic change if individuals have been purposely engaging in making themselves more comfortable with transformation. Now, here's perfect example to lead into the other thing that you all are dealing with, the people who are just freaking out about having to wear a mask. Like, I don't want to change. It comes down to I don't want to change. Now, it might be I don't believe this and I don't love whatever. But there's a component of I don't want to change. I still want to be able to get a haircut on Tuesday. I don't want you to tell me I can't go to my favorite restaurant. I don't want to change.
Yes, and absolutely. And actually, as you were speaking, I was thinking because we've had to have so much change, whether people have resisted it or not, in mass, we have had everybody's had some amount of change recently, and maybe that jarring of life as we know it having to adapt in some way would help us make more changes and other changes that we would benefit from making, that we would have been resistant to had we not been jolted into some form of change already. Hopefully. I
Yeah.
mean, okay, I'm total personality speaking that way, but that's
No, that actually isn't personality.
oh, okay. Oh, well, wow.
That's
Okay.
that's more of just an analysis of the present now. You're like, wow, we're probably better at changing because we had a lot of change recently. Yeah, you're all, that's an observation. But one thing we said to people is like, this is a change. It's good to make changes during a changing time.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in a changing time. Before it even started with the protesting, with the masks and the quarantines and all that. So if you find you like working at home, say, boss, I want to keep working at home. If you've never wanted to work Mondays, say, boss, I don't want to work Mondays. It's a time to insert into your experience the changes that you've always wished for but have never had.
Or the possibilities you've never been aware of that are now possible.
Yeah, and everything's kind of cracked, right? And so it's like the jigsaw puzzle's been thrown up in the air, and you're like, hey, I'd rather be working on the corner over here than the middle where I was before. And because it's like we just need to, everything's kind of up in the air and can be revamped more easily because there's less rigidity in general. So now is actually a really good time for transformation. If people can deal with changing during uncertainty, because the temptation is to say, I want it to go back the way it was, even if the way it was wasn't good.
Yeah.
Because imagine that back the way it was is better than I don't know how it will be in the future. And that you have to, that's personality.
Oh yeah.
It's a limitation.
Yes. Can you give an example or two of how to navigate uncertainty from as much awareness or, good personality, however you phrased it, as possible? So we're not coming back into rigidity. We're open to change, but change and uncertainty and I've talked with various people about this, so I'd like your take on this, but change is inherently uncertain. And so from your perspective, what are some ways we can navigate that uncertainty and live in and thrive in that kind of uncertainty so that we're sort of creating vibrantly instead of falling back on limitation?
Yeah, and one of the, we believe one of the most important aspects of the teaching we've done over the last 18 years has been evolving your relationship to uncertainty. And we actually have quite a lot about that on our website because it's vital. But one of the healthiest ways to think about uncertainty, okay, we're going to stop there. Here's how people typically think about uncertainty. Then we'll tell you the healthiest. People typically think about uncertainty as like a gun at their head or a knife at their neck. Like I'm in such jeopardy, and it's using the survival instinct to navigate uncertainty. And there's all kinds of uncertainties that you ignore easily, like how in the world are we actually talking to you right now?
That's true.
Oh, there's like Zoom and the phone and the this and the that. Who knows how that works? And that kind of uncertainty is like, poof, no problem. And the uncertainty of, I'm not sure if my job's coming back, or I'm not sure how my husband feels about me, or I'm not sure if my kids are going to be able to go to college, freaks people out like crazy. So there's already this distorted experience of uncertainty that if it's something that you can wind yourself up about using the survival instinct, it becomes super noisy. And if it's something that you're like, I'm just going to ignore that and it seems not to scare me too much, it's okay. One of our favorite examples of this is we say to people, you don't have an elephant and you don't get freaked out about that uncertainty. Like, when am I going to get an elephant? Oh, I don't know. I'm not, you're as uncertain about when you're going to get an elephant as you are about anything else. So the beautiful thing about uncertainty, and we tell people to go toward uncertainty. Look for the place you're uncertain, because uncertainty is the blank canvas. Uncertainty is the quiet piano. Uncertainty is the we don't know what it will be. But if we constrict, it will only be what personality can dream up and what the survival instinct will allow. But if instead we're present in awareness and we open to the field of infinite possibilities and we don't let sneaky personalities slip in to tell us what we should look for, but instead allow what's possible to bubble up, then uncertainty becomes discovery.
Yeah.
But too often uncertainty is processed as danger. Uncertainty is not danger. Uncertainty is discovery. And that's training your nervous system away from imagining uncertainty as danger and into experiencing uncertainty as discovery and fascination and evolution and unfolding. You know, the people out on the street right now, they don't know what that uncertainty will lead to. They're just saying we have to continue to illuminate something. And we're hoping that somehow it will result in change. And we don't know exactly what that change should be. But we know it should be change. And there are leaders and people who are saying, well, how about we do these, how about we change it in this fashion? Well, let's change it this way. Okay. And then you move through that.
So like that exploration.
Earlier, it's probably going to be really good personality, but it's going to be better than, you know, the personality that you've been in. So progress.
Yes. Yeah. And I've always look at uncertainty, because I've struggled with that myself in different times and places, that when I just let go of trying to, or of thinking that I know the answer, or if there's just no way that I know an answer, and I just have to kind of let things unfold and show me the direction to go in, that those were wonderful reminders that being in that curiosity, of being in that allowing, and of being in that place of not knowing actually allows things to come and unfold in ways that when I was searching for a particular outcome or was frozen in fear, never would have seen or never would have been able to have the bandwidth to recognize as it came through. And so
you just described the difference between personality and awareness.
Okay.
Right? Because personality is, I've gotta, oh my God, fear, gotta. And you're like, when I just set that stuff down and just say, okay, and be present and let go of the idea that I have to solve this and embrace the idea that I have to be present and allow whatever it is that's next. Because another thing that people do is they imagine, okay, the next thing I have to do is X. And personality says, yes, X, right? And when you get present and you allow yourself to abide in awareness, you may do A, B, or C next. And personality might say, well, wait, you should have been doing X, and now you wanted more information about X. That's why you got present. No. You don't feel like I need to do X, and you get present to try to get information about X. We call that the vending machine. We're not in the vending machine. You feel the temptation to be driven by personality into X. You recognize that you're being driven by personality. You turn away from that. You get present, and you allow choiceless choice to bubble up, to reveal what's next. And most of the time it isn't X, because personality's all down with X, and you're not going with personality.
No, that's totally true. And I think that's one more gift of this time, not the protests that I'm talking about, but more the coronavirus time, that with life being slowed down and having so many activities eliminated and so many, have-tos taken off of our plates, we could actually spend more, like we don't have as much like backed up one after the other, and you can have a little bit more experience about being in that spaciousness and seeing how that unfolds, because most of us have had lives up until this point that we are scheduled or have some other kind of commitment morning to night. And I've talked to a lot of people, they have kids, they've got activities, they've got this, and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much we were missing out on simply being and being together when we had to rush everybody to their particular activity. And, we want to go back to some activity, but we're carving out this time of quietness and spaciousness and of being that we didn't even realize we were missing because it just wasn't part of our lives. And I'm sort of, lumping a lot of people together in what they said in that, but that's another gift of this time, is that opportunity to be able to have the space to listen, rather than having to have, your A to Z activities scheduled throughout the day.
That's a really great physicalization of what we were just describing. So a perfect way to add to the conversation about it, because that's something most people can identify with, and the physicalization of what we were talking about. So if previously running around everywhere all the time, being busy 24/7, when you surrender that pattern and you recognize that, wow, just sort of hanging out with the kids at the house is amazing, that's a revelation. That hanging out with the kids option has always been there, but it had been not overlooked, but it had been set aside, let's say, for the busyness that personality has decided is important, And when you were forced to set those things down and recognize the value of what has always been there. That's why awareness has always been there. It's just been drowned out by personalities, domineering ways. And so that is such a great way to physicalize what we've been talking about during this whole call.
Perfect. Do you have any other things that you would like to say or wrap up with before we conclude?
Well, we would say that it's powerful to have a conversation like this. We appreciate your willingness to have us point out when sneaky personality was popping in there and gracious around that. It is difficult to have someone say, no, hang on. That idea that you've had for a while, it's actually not the highest that you can go. That's not always the easiest thing to hear, so we appreciate you hearing that. And we encourage people to really catch personality, and the way to catch personality is to notice the limitations, notice the preconceived notions, notice the assumptions, notice the drive toward a specific outcome, notice the overthinking. All of these are really common ways that personality says, no, keep doing it the way you've been doing it. Don't change. Don't believe that your life can be different than it is. And deeply being present is a doorway that almost everybody seems to be able to use. And when you go into deep presence, don't imagine that it means you have to meditate, although if you like to, you can. We don't talk about meditation typically, but what we mean by deep presence is as you go through your day, you're present to what you're involved in. You're present to your body. You're present to the activity you're in rather than being on the next step or the next 50 steps. You're present and you're allowing yourself to catch where you're being driven toward an outcome or driven toward something other than the now as you go through your day-to-day steps. Letting yourself engage with the now without other nows being more important. This now is, give it your attention, give it your importance, let it unfold for you. And if you find yourself predicting or imagining how things should be or how they must be, that rigidity and that limitation are more red flags for a personality trying to run the show. And the less and less personality you can have, and the more you can go from super unhealed personality to more healed personality as a first step, the greatest gift you're giving the planet. It's the greatest gift you're giving the planet, because all of the problems that you all face right now, societally and individually, are personality-based problems. They are problems that only personality has ever touched or navigated or decided what to do with. And personality problems processed by personality only give you personality solutions. So as you break out of your individual trap of personality and you allow yourself to abide in awareness, you open up not only awareness for your own life, but awareness for societal issues as well. So it's the greatest gift you can give at this time. It's the greatest energetic gift you can give, and it matters a lot, and every little bit you do matters. So we encourage people, if that means rearranging your kitchen in order to help you break out of rigidity and offer more neuroplasticity to the entirety, that's one small way. Every single one of you can do that. You can do it today. And that offers neuroplasticity to the field, if you want to call it that, and that offers more neuroplasticity to the society. That change makes a difference. And let that change inspire you to be more comfortable with uncertainty and be more comfortable with transformation and be more comfortable with things opening up in you.
Wow. Thank you so much. That was so clarifying, that last piece in there, and it really brought everything together. So thank you so much for being here and for continuing to catch my sneaky personality and for really giving us the next level of energy work that we can do in the middle of this process, where sometimes it feels like there's nothing that you can do with your one little piece. But even if you can start by rearranging your kitchen, it's a place to be.
Exactly. You're very welcome. For all on this side of the call, we say goodbye, and we are very happy that we had this opportunity to speak with you and your listeners today.
All right. Thank you very much. I truly appreciate it. So, Veronica, can you tell people how they can connect with you?
Yes. On my website, which is Elohim.com. That's ELOHEIM.com. On Facebook, it's Connect with Elohim is our Facebook group. And those are the best ways.
Okay, terrific. Well, thank you so much, Veronica. Thank you again to Elohim, and we will talk to you hopefully again sometime soon.
Yes.
This is your host, Christine Madera. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation from the edge of consciousness. You can find all our conversations at conversationsfromtheedge.net. You'll also find links to schedule a private conversation with me or any of my friends, as well as tools to help you expand your own consciousness and explore what's possible for you outside the boundaries of your current perceptions. Feel free to use this podcast to start your own conversation by sharing it with friends, on social media, in your blog, or even in your own podcast. And as always, live the adventure of pushing your own edge. It's the most amazing adventure there is.